Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name is Dabney and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Today I have Anne Ortelee back with me for the monthly forecast.
Mhm.
So excited to have Anne here to talk about March because March is a big month, setting us up for an even bigger month in April. So we
Mhm.
have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Anne, in case you are not familiar with her work, she is an astrology legend and she has her own Patreon that you can subscribe to where you get, I'm a subscriber. And I find out all sorts of little interesting tidbits about Anne through this Patreon. But she says, "Good morning, good morning, good morning," and you hear her cat Remo in the background. But the thing that you care about is that she gives you a daily forecast, and it really helps motivate you to understand what the energy of the day is. So Anne is also available for readings, and Anne also teaches monthly webinars around the moon. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Anne, that you would like
No,
to mention?
and I do topical, so I'll do one. I just did one on the eclipse and the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So I'll do big aspects in the sky. I'll do stuff on. Yeah.
So Anne's a wealth of knowledge. She's more predictive than I am. So it's kind of fun to have her on to, kind of get my big picture take on things and sort of more of the intuitive energy. And Anne kind of hones in on things. She uses asteroids. She really has like so much knowledge. So welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Dabney. Nice to be back. I'm glad people are liking it and saying good job. And Dabney and I interrupt each other. That is an agreement we have. So no comments about interrupting because we
Right.
get very excited and start talking. And I do need to be interrupted because I can go on at great length. So when
I
she's
do know
making
that.
when she's making little faces like she wants to ask a question, I've learned to shut up. So, but we like each other, we have fun together, and hopefully you'll have fun and learn stuff about March, which is a very big month. It's going to be a really big show for those of you old enough to have watched Ed Sullivan, because all the planets are migrating out of Pisces, where they've been feeling a little sorry for themselves or ending things and releasing things and saying bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. And now we do hello, hello, hello. So the door is opening to your hello for your next 35 years, your next 20 years, your next 19 years, your next 29 years, and your next 8 years. That's going to be at the end of April, but the 8 years is, but all these new cycles are beginning. So it's very important for you to plant good seeds and be conscious about what your vision is. That, as Carolyn Casey says, you have the vision, and then the Saturn reality train follows the vision. So we need you really thinking happy, visionary thoughts about your direction in life. So we're going to talk about how this month kicks that off.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, it's definitely a month of kind of ending of the endings. Maybe that's what we'll title it. Okay,
I like that.
I'm
Mhm.
gonna share my screen. Um, and let's see here. Okay, can you see my screen okay, Anne?
I can see your screen. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, let's start with the Virgo eclipse. Let's talk about that. Is the Virgo eclipse up, my
The
friend?
Virgo eclipse is up. Yep.
Okay. All right. So we have a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon on March 3rd in the sign of Virgo. And let's get Anne's take before I chime in.
Okay. So this is a companion eclipse, meaning we already had one a couple weeks ago, which was the beginning of the fire moon year. And it was Ramadan and Lent and the initiating energy of the Chinese New Year. So we're in the year of a fire horse. So that eclipse happened 2 weeks ago on the 29 degrees Aquarius. This eclipse is the last of the Virgo eclipses. So the node of fate went into Virgo January 10th of 2025, and nodes go backwards. So they go through your Virgo Pisces house, which is why we're letting go of so much stuff. South node's in Virgo, why you've been clearing things out, releasing, letting go. Last fall, we had an eclipse in Virgo on the 7th and the 21st of September. And that was a juicy time. That eclipse was at 15 of Pisces, a Virgo. So it activated this energy. So now we are having the companion to it. So stuff from last fall, last September 7th, comes forward for us to look at again. and we kind of wrap it up. Additionally, we go back to when the new moon was in Pisces, because the moons travel 9.5 months between being at the same degree. So we go back to when the new moon was in Pisces back in 2025, because that was the opening story. And then we had we now have yeah, it's 2024 maybe. But anyway, we go back 18 months. And now we have the full moon energy of it. But we also close up whatever was going on, whatever came to light in September. So what eclipses do, because the sun and the moon meet up on the node of fate, and you can see the sun there, the little circle with the dot right next to the north node of fate. So when the nodes are within 15 degrees of the sun, we have eclipse season. So we had the new moon eclipse 2 weeks ago, and this is the full moon. So this full moon is going to be emotional, big. It's also going to tie us back to last September. Now, in our collective culture, that was when Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, who had planets at 15 Pisces, and were suns at 15 Pisces, and Rob was a full moon, 15 Pisces, Virgo sun. That was when their sun went off the meds. And so that was when he started his deterioration. Now, what happens with eclipses is planets come and trigger them, and they activate. So when it got triggered in December was when the Rob and Michelle met their deaths, allegedly through the hand of their son. So we're going to see that back in the story. What else happened in last September? We had Beijing holding a meeting of Putin, the North Korea, India, a few other places went. And we think that Donald Trump might have had a stroke that weekend, because remember, everybody's like, where is he? Where is he? So it's got a health component because it's Virgo Pisces. It's got a releasing component because it's the sun on the north node encouraging us to go forward. And in the chart cast for DC, bright and early March 3rd, the eclipse is rising. So it's in the angles. When planets are at the houses 1, 4, 10, and 10 and 7, those are the angles, and those make them extra juicy and a bigger deal. They kind of have a whole extra umph. Now, this eclipse has a lot of planets in the first house because the first house is action oriented. And we see in there the Saturn Neptune, who just went into Aries and met up and got married on February 20th. So they're married now, and they're going to be doing stuff for the next 35 years. 35, yes, 35. So we're initiating a new cycle that's going to run for 35 years around our vision and our structures. We're ending the cycle that happened in 88, 89, when the Berlin Wall fell, Tiananmen Square happened, Europe reunited, and the USSR broke up. So this is a very powerful eclipse because we're echoing that energy shutting down. And now what are we going to do for the next 35 years? And so this one has a very strong emotional cast because it's a full moon. Full moons are emotional. You know, the cops and the hospitals and even the bus drivers in New York know the full moons because everybody is a little more emotional. So plan on more emotion. We also in this eclipse have Mercury retrograde. And so Mercury retrograde means your ghosts, your people from your past are coming back to talk to you. And they want to talk to you. They want to have conversations with you. And they want to make amends. I have a couple people that got notes because we're in the approach to the retrograde, got notes from their estranged sibling apologizing for being an alcoholic. You know, the past wants to come forward and talk to you. Now, Mars is at the very beginning of Pisces. So he is in a very sensitive sign, but he's also in charge of the Aries planets. So the Aries planets are still a little extra sensitive in terms of how they're communicating and what they're saying. So there's a lot of energy, you know, around remorse. So the eclipse has a remorseful feel. So if you find yourself crying or you find yourself really feeling very overwhelmed, it's okay. This energy wants to release from you, as Dabney labeled this. It's the beginning, the endings of the endings, and this is really the mark of that. That full moon says, "Pop it. You're done. Let it go." Moon on the south node, release the emotions. It's okay. You're going to be okay. A lot of people, when they're really feeling emotional, feel like, well, if I start to cry, I'll never stop. You'll stop with this one. Don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to be like, okay, I'm really feeling it. And also really make time for your own spiritual purpose. Moon in Virgo encourages a ritual, encourages you to do something where you go, okay, I want to really release that person that, I want to release my anger at the person, or I want to release my hurt feelings. The eclipses are lovely releasing energy because the sun and moon get eaten up and they go away. Because in the mythology, the North Node comes to eat, the dragon comes to eat the sun and moon when they meet up. So he eats them up. And so you're kind of like, oh, he eats them up. And then what happens after you eat? You poop, right? And you release. So release, release, release with this eclipse. So Dabney, what do you say?
What I see is it is in a south node, meaning it is something that we need to release. I love that you talk about the ghosts of the past because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is retrograde in Pisces. All of that really does resonate with me. And that makes me think about what is Virgo? Virgo is, it's about the ideal, it's about perfection, but it's also the virgin. And so, as we know how literal astrology can be sometimes, I do think that this is going to bring additional revelations about the Epstein files.
Especially around girls age 12. Look at those sun and moon. The chart's very literal, so watch the degrees, 12 years old.
Right. So, we are already finding out things about missing pages of FBI reports. I think we're finding out that there were things hidden in storage lockers all across the US. Who has those things. So I think there is kind of something about the past coming back that has to do with women and girls. And Virgo energy really is that Artemis energy of that she was the protector of women and children. So I think there is something about a little bit of closure. I think there was a lot of foreshadowing in the Aquarian eclipse that we just had when Prince Andrew was arrested. So I think there's some tie-in here,
Mhm.
but I think it's filled with a lot of grief, in all honesty. There's nothing to celebrate with any of this, and knowledge is power, but it can also be really, really depressing. And
And hard.
so, what you don't know, like sometimes naivete is a comfort. And so I'm getting this sense of like it's another round of grief.
Yeah.
And so I agree with your analysis about it's okay to cry. Uh, I also think that we can take comfort in the fact that I keep saying it's like the gods on Mount Olympus are just, we're on a fated ride right now. Like these things are so much bigger than us. So, taking care of our own emotional world and taking care of our pets and our animals. And oh my gosh, I'm going to stop it real quick. So when you said the September 7th, the bookend to that, that's when my cat ran away. But it was kind of my fault. Like I
Mhm.
never fully liked this cat because he was really feral and he would run away every time we walked in the room. And it's a long story, but he liked being an indoor outdoor cat. And then our other cat got sick. Anyway, long story short, he ran away or something happened to him right at that eclipse. And my other cat who loved that cat has not been the same since. And so, it's interesting. Part of my ritual for the Saturn Neptune, if people attended my workshop, for me was to let go of the guilt and the shame around that. And so when you said like what happened then, like, that's bringing that a little bit full circle for me. And so there might have to be some grief around my role in that poor sweet kitty. Uh,
But also that the cat left, I mean, they leave when you have life-changing events coming through.
yeah.
Death of pets is very much tied to big change in the structure of your life.
Yes.
Was he your sixth house pet or your eighth house pet?
What does that mean, Anne?
Well, the first one was your sixth house, which is your first pet. Who's older?
Oh, okay. So we have three cats because I did get the kitten, Anne.
Okay.
But he was number two. So I guess
He's your eighth house cat.
yeah,
So
and
six, one, two, three, sibling eight, one, two, three. The new kitten is your 11th house cat.
oh, she's a lot. Yeah, she's so fun.
She's this frisky little fun thing, yeah.
She's amazing. I hope
But so
she
you're in your Scorpio house. right? With that cat that ran away, which is why when he ran away, you're like, you don't like me? What do you mean you don't like me? Of course you like me. But the other cat liked him. Yeah.
Right. And so then that cat's being a little naughty. Anyway, you all don't need to hear all of my drama, but my pet drama. But it is Virgo, and
Yeah.
Virgo rules small pets and
Mhm.
household daily efforts and things like that. And anyway, just so everyone doesn't get mad at me, I had this cat for 5 years. I tried so hard with this cat. Like I cared for it. It was circumstances about, and we talked to the vet, and the vet was like, I think he wants to be an outdoor cat. And then didn't
And
work.
outdoor cats have shorter lives.
Yes, it turned out to
Indoor, outdoor have shorter lives because
be
there's
much.
a lot of things out in the world that are a little mean. But
Yeah.
also the Venus, the other part, as I noticed as you were talking about the Epstein people, that Venus in Pisces is coming into sextile to Uranus, which is again healing and also noticing that Uranus is in the third house, which is the missing pages. Because who knew they number them all, so we know all the chain of evidence. You can't get rid of shit without knowing that. Oh, where's paper number 10?
Well, and
We're missing it. Yeah.
I can't help but think about Virginia Giuffre,
Yeah.
and I believe she was an Aries, so she has, or an Aries moon or something. She had some Aries. She was a fighter. So,
And I guess Taylor Swift read her book and is going to be writing an album. Her next album is going to be about women speaking out.
wow.
So that would be very motivational and inspirational for her many followers, including me.
Wow.
I'm a Swiftie too, but I remember thinking, ooh, that's good because she's done 13, which is her number. So now this 14th album, which is a number, it adds up to a five, which is a number of making change. So we'll see.
And it's really interesting too with all this emerging Aries energy, which is quite masculine, and yet it's interesting to see, like, there's always the polarity. There's always the Libra energy then has to be present about relationships. And so it's going to be interesting. All right, Anne. So now I have Venus on Neptune and then
On
Saturn.
Saturn, right? So
Okay.
now what's going to happen, and Venus is the first girl through, right? So you can see over in the left, she's at 0 Aries. So this is when she meets Neptune on Saturday, and then the next day she meets Saturn. So as the planets in Pisces all enter into Aries, they're going to dance through the Neptune Saturn, and they're all going to get their assignments. They're going to have conversations with Neptune and Saturn about what their vision is, and more importantly, what the work is they want to do to make the vision happen. So this is the first one. We're going to see the sun come through there. We're going to see Mercury come through there. We're going to see Mars come through there. The personal planets that help you get your life in order, the moon will go through there too. So as they activate the Saturn Neptune, you are now with Venus going to be asked about your heart's desire and what is it you desire personally from this next 35 years with Saturn and Neptune working to create your vision. And remember, all of us are having this. And the reason we care is because 0 Aries is the world point. So it initiates a whole new story. And this is a little go do your research homework. There's a thing called a draconic chart, Draconic, that has the North Node for everybody's soul at 0 Aries. And then you have your natal chart that you're working with in this lifetime. So your soul, everybody's soul is getting a new assignment. Every country has a draconic chart. So the United States, England, France, they all have India, China, they all have draconic charts. Everybody's country is getting a new assignment with the Saturn Neptune. All the documents, the Declaration of Independence has 0 Aries at the bottom of the chart. So the United States vision is our vision statement. The Magna Carta, which is a document that set up rule of law. So all of everything in the world is getting a new vision. And as the planets march through and hit that Neptune Saturn, they say, hi, I'm up. Now it's a little bit like going in one of those game shows where you're sitting there and you're in the thing, and if they hit the ball, you drop into a tank of water. All right. But this energy is okay. I'm in. What's my journey as Venus goes through here? So you're going to watch on Saturday and Sunday, March 7th, 8th, Venus getting her assignment. And of course, Neptune is her vision, Saturn is her work, And then we're going to watch the other planets come marching through. The sun comes through on the seasonal, the spring ingress when he gets to 0 Aries. Mercury is going to be retrograde this month. It will go over it next month. Mars will get into Aries and it will activate it. So we're going to have all the personal planets wake up and get their new jobs. And so this chart is this is Venus getting her job. Now the rising sign is Pisces, where Venus is in her exaltation. She's rolling through the sign of her exaltation right now, so she's a pretty happy girl. When she goes into Aries, she gets very fierce, but she is an evening star, which is the star she likes to be because she's, in her glory in the evening, because she sets behind the sun right now. So when we get to October, she'll turn into a morning star. But right now, she's working her magic in the dark at night through your dreams, through your hopes, through your ideas. Miss Dabney, what do you see?
So when you look at this chart, would you look at this up against the Sibley chart, or would you look at it against the US?
Against everybody's soul. So pull your draconic chart, which the North Node will be at 0 Aries. So look at where that is in your chart. 0 Aries is anywhere. And then we have this activation of your soul.
So this is my new astrology software, Astrotheros.
Yeah.
And they have draconic charts now. And I have not played with that yet, but you can go to Astrotheros and actually get your draconic chart.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
So
But
we're going to swap these. So you're going to see the US on the outside.
let me see that.
And
Again, it's my new software. So
it's a little up and down thing there. Yeah. There we go.
here you
Okay. So
okay.
this is what's called the Sibley chart on the inside, which is July 4th, 1777, 5:10 p.m. It was an elected chart by the founding fathers who were Masons. Masons also had a very strong interest in astrology. So they picked this chart. Jupiter rising, very lucky. Jupiter in its exaltation in the 7th house in Cancer. It's a nesting chart. Saturn high in the chart that we're going to do unto others. Saturn in its exaltation in Libra, the rule of law, the concept of law being better than men, and that we're going to be a nation of laws. Planets not discovered yet, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, so they didn't know about those guys. But Mars is in the 7th house in Gemini. Interestingly, at 21 Gemini, that's where Donald Trump's sun in Uranus is. So Donald Trump, as the leader of our country, is showing us Mars in Gemini, helping us learn about that Mars. The founding fathers put Mars in a weak position in the 7th house, put it in Gemini, which is a sign that fights with its siblings. So we've been having a lot of fights. And Mars in Gemini reports to that Mercury retrograde up there in Cancer in the 8th house. So our enemies talk trash about us, but don't necessarily win. When we look down at the bottom, the IC of the chart is 0 Aries. So we're, plant a stick in the ground and say, I am. And that's where the Venus is coming to the Neptune Saturn, where we're going to be saying, I am, and this is my vision for the country. So we see that this chart really takes the ascendant at over in Sag with the midheaven there in Sag, and it says, let us merge our vision with our direction. So it's a very powerful chart in terms of new directions and saying. And so you're going to look in your own chart for the United States, the Saturn Neptune's down there. Now, interestingly, the last time Neptune was there was the firing of Fort Sumter. So this year when Neptune was at 0 Aries on our IC, and that was the beginning of the Civil War, of course, this time when Neptune, it was the shooting of Alex Petty and Bruce Springsteen writing a song that day and releasing it, The Streets of Minneapolis 2020, in the winter of 2026, which is kind of an anthem for this story. So that was the Fort Sumter, the Alex Petty shooting of this Neptune in Aries, because it just went into Aries and we had that guy shot in the street. And then we went forward from there. So we're watching that story unfold. What is our vision, Neptune, for our country, for the structure of the United States? What do we think? And as Venus goes through there, she says, who do you guys want me to fight for? Because she's over there next to Jupiter. Who do you want me to charm? Because I'm going to go charm people with Venus next to Jupiter in the natal chart for the Sibley. So it's important. And of course, Venus is square Venus. and Saturn is square the US Venus. So we're getting a new structure, a new vision. Venus rules the direction of our life, and Venus rules the Saturn in Libra. So this is important for your visionary purpose. Obviously this is US centric, but everybody in the world has zero North Node Aries. And that is the point of your soul's entry. That's the draconic chart if you cast that chart. But more importantly, Saturn and Neptune are triggering everybody's soul to say, what is the new structure that you're going to be working on for the next 35 years?
So one of the things that stands out to me is that yes, we have this, and I think, but it's in the fourth house, and the fourth house is the homeland. It is the home, but there's still all of this energy in Pisces. So I don't know that we're going to have the clarity that we might like right now. It's going to feel like I still feel like March has this kind of, at least in the beginning, this feeling of like helplessness. I'm lost. Like,
All the Pisces planets are still lost. Yes.
right. They're still kind of, so the best way that we can kind of deal with this is sort of that acceptance, and that doesn't mean if you're tapped, and this is what I always say is like, I think it's about getting yourself right now. Because if you get yourself right, then you're well poised for what's next when the clarity continues. I think there is clarity happening, but it is certainly far from clear what's going to happen. And I think we are entering a new era, but again, the ending of the end or the end of the endings. So it's sort
We
of
got to
like,
get all those planets out of Pisces before we're in the beginning. Yeah.
right. Like I got a really bad cold on the Saturn Neptune, right? And I was leading a workshop and I was like, why am I getting this cold? And I was reminded that like sometimes we get these things to rest. We get these things to take a pause, like that we need to purge in some way. Like we need to, our bodies are just saying like, no, you're not all right. Like sometimes we're just always on this mission to get to where we're going. And I think we're going to be getting to where we're going soon enough.
Right.
And so I guess this is that sort of processing time, this internalization, this and it's hard and especially for like little type A people like me and Anne, like, you know, I personally, well, I don't know about you, Anne, I can't speak for you, but I have a hard time resting. And so when that happens, then like something will come along to force you
Make
to
you go to bed. Yeah.
bed because maybe you need to have dreams that work out what's really happening so you can get that clarity.
hmm
So, okay,
Plus with Venus and Aries, that's not one of her favorite signs, but she is opinionated. So that's the other part where she goes, I think of the Scarlett O'Hara. I will never be hungry again. So she's got a vision. She doesn't know how she's doing it, but she got a vision. And then the other thing to note is the Mercury Sun Cazimi. Mercury's retrograde on the Sun. So this is bringing your ghosts back, talking to you and saying, hey, what have you been hearing from your ghosts? And Mercury conjunct the Sun is very brilliant aha moment. So it's an aha moment. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to implement, but you're going to go aha, and then you're going to go now what?
right. So it's kind of interesting how the Mercury retrogrades can actually bring information forward.
Mm-hmm.
But you're sitting with it more rather than like the action oriented because you're required to slow down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because this is such a fast year, I think we should maybe relish the opportunity to slow down and not just rush into things personally and on the world stage, like just rushing into a war or rushing into, some reactionary thing to change the news cycle away from Epstein, which we don't want to talk about, right? Like sometimes we have to sit with these hard truths, but I am going to also give this caveat that I know that everyone's exhausted right now because it takes a lot of mental energy to process that we are living in an insane asylum. Like that nothing seems to, like the rules that we've lived by our whole lives no longer make sense. And it's like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing what's happening? Even if you know there's nothing that you can do about it, it's still like a mental and physical drain and it can be quite exhausting. So don't look for March to be a less exhausting month the exhaustion, I think, in some ways subsides when we get to take action,
Yes.
which is
And
kind
right now, Mars is in Pisces. So he just wants you to go swimming, go to bed and go sleeping. Yeah,
of.
be a little careful about drugs and alcohol. He wants you to dance and sing. Mars and Pisces words.
Yeah.
Go and get foot rubs.
Ooh.
Now, the other thing to remember is we're shifting all these planets into air and fire. And this year, all the Mercury retrogrades are in water. So when we want to create something, we have an idea, air, we have a vision, fire. And remember, we can talk about stuff we want to do, but to get it actually to happen, we have to add emotion. So the Mercury retrogrades are all in water and they're going to add the emotion. Is this the emotional dream we want to pursue? Or do we want to do something else? So that's why the Mercury retrogrades are really key this year. So this is the Pisces one, which is what's your soul's path? What's your 12th house? Where's your calling? What's your past lives inviting you to go forward with? Or emotionally, you say you want to do it. Are you going to give it the energy? Are you going to commit? And you may say, I don't really want to commit to that. And you're like, all right, you don't have to. Because Venus is going through the Neptune Saturn. She's going to be asked, what do you want? And she may say, I don't know yet. And that's okay if she doesn't know, because she'll figure it out. But she's first up on the docket. The first one to be questioned by Neptune and Saturn. But then with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's like, I'm not 100% clear, but maybe I know what I don't want. That's okay. I don't want that. Well, then do the positive version of I don't want that. That'll help you get to the what you do want, the do want list.
And there's always with it, what you kind of brought to the fore for me with all of the Mercury retrogrades in water signs is water signs are always an opportunity to heal. You know, even anger as an emotion is based in fear. And so the more we can kind of really acknowledge our emotions and not suppress them or project them. And so I think that there's maybe something kind of cosmic there about the opportunity to heal after so much upheaval and trauma of the past, 5 years or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Anne, let's see. Take me to where we're going next. We going Jupiter direct?
Jupiter direct, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Can you see
Okay.
the Jupiter direct?
We can see Jupiter direct. Now, Jupiter's been retrograde. Retrogrades happen in the sign. So Jupiter's in water. So Jupiter went retrograde when the sun was in water in Scorpio. And now it's going direct because the sun's in Pisces. So it's always retrograde, water, water. So that's how you always know, like, is it going to be retrograde or direct? So Jupiter stationing to go direct is in the sign of its exaltation. It loves being in Cancer, but it always gets deeply affected by the moon. So in this case, the moon and Jupiter are in mutual reception, meaning they can swap clothes, they can swap outfits, they're the same size. So Jupiter loves being in Sag, and the moon, of course, loves being in Cancer. So this is a very powerful direct placement because Jupiter's going to go, oh, we can go and do stuff finally. And the moon goes, oh, really? We're going to do stuff? And Jupiter's like, yeah. Now you can see that big blue triangle in the middle. That's called the grand trine in water. Grand trines in water are very powerful because they get you in the flow. So you're going to feel once Jupiter goes direct on March 10th, you're going to really feel like, wow, I'm in the flow. And this is very exciting for me to be flowing along. So that's a helpful energy. And we are going to find the mutual reception between the moon in Sag now in Cancer and Jupiter in Sag. This is going to launch kind of a vision energy. And we're still during the eclipse season. We've had that eclipse, but we are in the process of implementing it as we see the moon in Sag in a closing square to the sun in Pisces, saying, what have you learned during eclipse season? And how do you want to implement it? Because like closing squares are about implementation of the knowledge that we've gained. So this is a lovely square. And we also see Mars creeping up there on that north node of fate, getting ready to go into it. Now, Dabney and I have a limit on how many charts she lets me have. So she didn't let me have the Mars on the North Node. But right after the Jupiter direct, Mars hits the North Node and he goes, oh, I'm ready to go. And he's answering to Jupiter in its moving forward finally. So Mars should be pretty happy because he goes, oh, Jupiter's released me to go and do what I want to do. So we have a lovely grand trine in this one. We also have a fire trine, and fire is frisky. So we've got a fire trine, grand trine, and we have a water grand trine. And fire and water make tea. Dabney, show them your teacup.
Yeah,
I'll
my
show them. There's my teacup, right? So go make tea and enjoy the Jupiter direct because now all the outer planets are going to be direct. Nothing's going to be holding us back.
so
Everybody's moving forward full steam ahead.
yeah,
It's big.
that is, as a Cancer, someone with a lot of Cancer planets, I have found it to be somewhat of a frustrating time with Jupiter retrograde. And so in a personal way, I'm looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Um, Now on the world stage, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out as a Cancer nation. We also have a lot of Cancer planets in the US. And so this Jupiter is going to be pretty much on our sun. And
And the moon's on our ascendant. So if you pull up the US chart, it's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, so this is once again, we're looking at, kind of how is this? Whew, just a lot.
Swap the babies.
Oh,
The
I
little
swapped them again. Thank you, Anne. Look at she's on top of me because I was like, why is it in the eighth house? It's to be in
yeah.
this.
Well, it's in the eighth house because it's where it is. But this is against the US chart that we just looked at. And so now you see Jupiter going direct, sitting right on the sun. So he
Yeah.
comes back and he puts his butt on the sun. So if you've ever been at a wedding and someone came over and sat on your lap, that's what we have there. Jupiter sitting on the lap of the sun and saying, ready? And the sun's like, yeah, let's get a picture before we go out and do shit. So that's a very
Right.
nice
But it
energy.
can also indicate hubris and a
Yeah.
little bit of like, oh, I can do whatever I want. And I think we heard that the other day come out of our orange leader's mouth. I can do whatever I want. And so
I
there,
listen to my own morality.
right, like there is.
Jupiter is morals. Yeah.
Right. And Cancer, it's a little bit of the shadow of Cancer can be nationality. I mean, nationality isn't always bad and patriotism isn't bad, but this sense of like only, my tribe, my country, my people are all that matter is a little bit of a Cancer thing. It's definitely, kind of uh there is this sense, what I'll say is however, when Jupiter was in Cancer during 9/11, which Jupiter was also in Cancer during McCarthyism, but it was also in Cancer when somebody said, have you no decency, sir? So there is this sense that we have to recognize that there is like a fear-based thing that can come out with Cancer where it's like I need to protect my own at all costs and sort of a circling of the wagons. And so when Jupiter goes direct, there's kind of an additional like punctuated energy there. There's also potentially like new energy around actual Cancer values, which is compassion and nurturing and care for women and children and things like that. So, we don't know how it'll play out. It'll probably play out as both things, as is what I would say.
Yeah. And then he goes full steam ahead, and all the planets go full steam ahead. So once they're all moving forward again, we have it'll feel like everything really accelerates.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's always a fun thing.
All right, let's see what we want to look at next here. All right, so is the next thing or the last thing we want to look at
Is
with,
the spring equinox.
oh, this, don't look at that. All right, and then we're doing the Mars square. We're saving the big
The big
firework.
for last. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, actually, you know what, Anne? We need to
Mhm.
take a moment for my sponsor.
Oh, okay, totally.
Beautiful
These
Astro.
lovely charts, Dabney. Go.
Yes. So thank you so much to Astrotheros. You're getting to see what Astrotheros does in action, how intuitive it is, how easy it is. It is cloud-based software for astrologers and beginning astrologers alike. And that's what I like about it because you sign up. It's not an app, it's actually a website. So it can be on your desktop, your tablet, or your phone. So when you're out with friends, you have all of your charts at the ready. So that's been my toughest thing is like my apps have the charts, but then my desktop has the charts and then I have to re-pull it up. So this way it's just always all there and you see how seamless and easy it is. So I highly recommend Astrotheros. So thank you so much for sponsoring this episode with the lovely Anne Ortelee. And thank you for adding draconic charts because
Yes.
that was
You'll be
actually.
able, all the stuff we talked about, you'll be able to pull up and see your draconic chart on Astrotheros.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Astrotheros. Okay, and let's take it away, the spring equinox.
Again, we're back to that little zero. So before we showed you Venus going over it, and a little earlier in the day, the moon will go over it, but because you can see the moon's in Aries. But the sun now is hitting that zero Aries, and it's now then going to go over the Neptune and the Saturn. So when planets come to meet a planet, especially a planet's in conjunction, they initiate a new cycle. Now, the Saturn Neptune conjunction is a 35-year cycle. And obviously, the sun goes around the chart every year, but it's going to be the first time it's met Neptune in Aries because Neptune went into Aries in March of last year. And it's the first time it's met the sun in Aries since 1997, or Saturn in Aries, rather, since 1997 when the sun was last year. So you're going to be thinking back to 1997. Stuff from the Civil War, the Crimean War happened when Neptune was in Aries. That's part of Ukraine. And of course, Sun in Aries is initiating, and it's on the draconic chart, your North Node, which is why spring is such a big deal. All the astrologers get very excited to look at the spring equinox because it's initiating a whole new cycle of growth. Sun comes across the equator, the days get a little longer in the northern hemisphere. Now we're talking Western astrology, northern hemisphere. Every culture has astrology and looks at it in different ways. But for us, this initiates our growing season. So with the sun coming to Neptune, there's an illumination and an aha moment. And then when it comes to Saturn, Neptune says to the sun, okay, so here's your work. Saturn says, here's your work. And not just for this year, but for the next 29 years for the sun Saturn, and for the next 165 years for the sun's Neptune. And of course, Neptune's going to be in Aries for 14 years. So sun's going to come and get new assignments every year for the next 14 years. But this is their first assignment. So it's big, and it's up there in the 11th house of groups, asking us what direction we want to hang out with. Notice the rising of the chart for Washington is Mercury. And look at the very tippy top. Mercury's up there, right in the node of fate. Remember, I got all excited about Mars being in the node of fate. Well, Mercury's in there too. And notice the little S at the bottom. Mercury is stopped on the day the sun meets Saturn Neptune. So this is like those commercials when E.F. Hutton talks, everybody stops. This will be a day the world stops because it has to stop and listen. Mercury's on the North Node, and Mercury's in Pisces on a world point, 7.5 of the mutable, degree on either side. Mercury's stationing on a world point. So very important communication because Mercury and the sun and are talking to each other on world points. So big news coming in, big information coming in. And you can see Saturn's about to get to Pluto. We didn't include that chart, but Saturn's coming into his first sextile with Pluto. The last time they hung out was the winter of 2020. Saturn went and got in the car after COVID, and Jupiter hopped in the car with him, and they said goodbye to Pluto. Because remember, Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn were the cause of COVID, or the astrological symbolism when COVID happened. And so the last time Saturn saw Pluto was, December 20th of 2020. And now Saturn and Pluto are in a sextile. And so Saturn in Aries is saying to Pluto, what's been going on for the last 6 years? What have you been doing over there? So they're going to have a little conversation as part of this story. And we can anticipate the sun is then going to come in sextile the Pluto after he hits Saturn. So getting our operating instructions, getting our directional call. because Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto, it was that big cycle which really took the whole world out for a while because it was on a world point of 22 Capricorn. And now the Saturn and Pluto are kind of having a reunion after their uh, having fun, having COVID, having us all have COVID and experience the experience of COVID. So this can also bring some COVID stuff back for you. Like I remember, so that Saturn sextile to Pluto is also kind of part of this. It happens in a couple days, but
And it's interesting, we're having some echoes too. I was reading some articles the other day about how a lot of kids of immigrants are feeling like they're back in COVID because they're in lockdown, and they're learning on their, their tablets again. They can't go out and play or socialize. They're kind of like, in their own sort of lockdown. And there's a lot of things that are happening with the education system as well as a result of all of the changes that have happened since COVID, whether it be AI or, the drop in enrollment or, just there's been so many changes. And when I see this chart intuitively, that North Node in Pisces in the 10th house, conjunct Mars, conjunct that Mercury, a powerful Mercury. This is really about like, do you know, like, can you be compassionate for other people? Can you take care of other people? Do you know the consequences of your words? Like this is almost like this, do you know what you're doing? Like that's what I get. It's like in the 10th house, it's very exposed. It's like war is hell, right? We can glamorize it, and we can, kind of have these parades with, soldiers marching, but that's not always the reality of it. And I feel like with the Pisces, there's this opportunity to diffuse really, really powerful situations prior to the biggest Aries, before Mars goes into Aries too.
right. And also, with the energy of this is kind of paying attention. The 11th house is other people's children. It's also groups. So that's interesting that the kids are having the COVID re-experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think like our leaders, which is also Mars, are gonna have to do some soul searching, Pisces, and
Hmm.
they're going to have to communicate with one another compassionately. And this is sort of like, I think this is very much the like, here's what you're supposed to be doing now. This is, you're not supposed to be trying to control things. You're supposed to be coming together. You're supposed to be recognizing. You're supposed to stop the projection and really find love and peace. And can you rise to that occasion? That's really what that spring equinox says to me. And I guess
Hmm.
in our own lives, it's a similar sort of situation. Can we find can we model leadership and words that are compassionate, kind, caring, loving, creative, that spark inspiration rather than just like firing off emails or internet trolling? I don't know. That's what I get.
Hmm. Totally.
Okay. All right. So now do we
All you internet trolls, you're blocked. You're
That's
blocked.
right. Go just take a breather on the spring equinox. Maybe
And
there'll
just
be
when
something there too for,
right. Well,
you
but
know,
also when you do the trolling, I mean, I know you get off on it a little bit, but it says more about you than it does about the person you're trolling. So remember, it shows your envy, right? So go
yeah.
ahead and troll, but we look at that and we go, boy, you're really pretty envious. So,
Yeah, you seem nice. Yeah, I
mhm.
always like when people say that. You seem nice. Um, so one thing I did forget to say about Astrotheros is that you get a free month or two.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So yeah, use the code Lawless, and I'll put some additional information below in the
In the
notes
link.
and on a pinned comment about Astrotheros.
Mhm.
But definitely it's worth checking out. And I forgot to mention that you do get a free month. Um,
Right.
so, yeah. Okay, Anne, now are we ready for the big drum
Now
roll?
we're ready for the big one. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Oops. Is that right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Hmm.
That's like now.
I know it's in the next couple days. So
Everyone, take a moment, take a deep breath.
we're ending at the beginning.
We're
That's
ending at the beginning. So this is February, just so you know. Like we
just
were,
switch back into February,
we could
two
not talk.
days from now, right?
Okay. Yep.
And so, a lot of people muttering about war, war, war. We got all those little guys steaming over to Iran. And Mars, of course, is the planet of war, and Uranus is the planet of change. And Mars is going to square Uranus. So that's been building up. That's where people are really building up to kind of a little bit of a breakdown, break apart, have a collapse of sorts. And I have quite a few people that have stuff on Friday that are like court dates and finishing fights and, appealing for things. So this is the Mars Uranus square, which is I am taking action in Aquarius for my own independence. And it's right by the eclipse. So it's going to trigger the eclipse that we had on February 17th when Uranus was part of that eclipse. It was the Uranus squared the sun and the moon. So Mars is now coming to trigger the sun and moon and square the Uranus to ignite the eclipse. So what we do with an eclipse is it's like you have a party, you got the saran wrap on the food, you got the fireplace ready, doorbell rings, and you go, okay, take the saran wrap up, light the fire, and go answer the door. That's what happens on Friday, Mars squaring Uranus. It actually happens. So if we're going to go bombing people, which is possible because Mars is on the top of the chart, we want to go, oh, really, is this what we want to do? But Mars square Uranus is an action oriented. It's also Uranus behind the scenes. This is a big setup for accidents. So I want you driving carefully because everybody else is having Mars square Uranus too. And they're impatient and they're doing stupid things and they're going to just, and so you want to watch whatever the eclipse landed in your chart. People are going to get a little wild and crazy. Now, in my case, it was the seventh house. So I have a lot of clients reporting in, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, well, we got to get past this. And once we're past it and we're in a slightly nicer space, this is the aha moment. This is the action moment for the eclipse. So we have that new moon eclipse, we have this square, and then we have the full moon, which is our emotional realization. So this is a very dramatic day. Proceed with caution. Notice the sun is on the north node of fate. We have Saturn, Neptune's on a world point. We have Jupiter and the moon together. The moon happens to be out of bounds on this day, so it's a very emotional day. Back to my earlier comment, like if you start sobbing and crying, you will stop. But this day you may feel you're never going to stop because of the trine from the moon to the Venus and the Mercury retrograde. You also can hear from your ghosts. Take the call, hear what they have to say. It may upset you, but it also, if it brings up some old thing, it's 12th house, brings up an old feeling, an old thing you didn't process, it's good. So way back when I was younger, I had a friend who dumped me at work and I couldn't figure out why. I had no idea why. And I asked and I followed up, did I do something wrong? And it was no, just wouldn't talk to me about it. A couple, unresolved, right? A couple years go by, she gets a promotion to go up to the headquarters. And I had helped her a lot going through a difficult, she was a guidance counselor who'd come to work as a tech, and she had a real asshole manager. So I had kind of counseled her through dealing with the asshole manager. And we got her through it and she was doing fine. So then she did very well. And in that period, she dumped me, but she was very friendly with another woman who had a problem with me. So I was just like, what the hell? I don't know. So she gets this promotion and we announce, everybody cheers, congratulations. She's a lovely woman. She was a Cancer, born on actually President Trump's birthday, Flag Day. And she says to me, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. So we go into the break room and she says, I have to tell you, I know I'm here because you helped me stay with this job. So really this promotion is because of you, because otherwise I would have been fired. And I really feel I need to make amends for what happened when I stopped talking to you. I'm like, whoa. And so she tells me that the other woman was very jealous of me and she couldn't cope with, it was easier to dump me to make the other woman happy than to, and that we were all working together. It wasn't like romance or anything, but to dump me as, so the other woman wasn't so jealous and badly behaved. And I was like, wow. And so that's why you dumped me because of her? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, wow. And out came all this rage, which I did not know was in there. I thought I'd packed it up away nice and clean. I was furious. And she said, well, I said to Tony, our manager, I had to make amends with you. And I'm going to talk to you until you're not mad at me anymore. And I was like, I have to tell you, I'm really furious right now because if that was what was going on, she goes, I know you would have gone in there and you would have fought. And I didn't want you fighting because I had to figure out how to get along with her because I know you would have fought. And I was like, wow, you dumped me because I didn't have. So we processed, we talked, we processed, we walked, we talked. Took about 2 weeks, got to the other side. I said, I get it. I'm not angry anymore. Thanks for telling me what happened. Blessings, and that was it. But that was that aspect because I went back and looked. So this triggers old shit to pop up like a giant dragon in your chart and go, "Rah!" And then you to go, and then you to go in and process because right after this comes the eclipse, which says it was meant to be. It's okay. We're on the, as Dabney says, we're on the fated journey. So yeah. So that's
That's
my Mars Uranus. That's why I wanted to include it.
great, Brian. And it makes me angry for you, in all honesty, because I just wish people could just be honest and not play games because I've had my own versions of that, which is just
She's a Cancer on my South Node. So that was a loss that was important. And I'd helped give birth to her, got her to keep her job because she had a type A manager that was just a fucking asshole. And I would strategize with her how to deal with him when she would come out of the room crying and okay, this is what our plan is. But yeah, it was very big. But it also, I had not realized how mad I still was because I just went, I don't have I can't, I mean, I see her, I say hi. I try and talk to her, she runs away. Like, what? Do I have bad breath? Do my underarms smell?
anyway, for everyone watching, don't behave like that. It's not appropriate and it's not kind. But anyway, I get that you worked through it, but
I
I can
did. Yeah.
I can be
That's
angry.
the Mars Uranus, but it does erupt. It erupts.
And it can come out of seemingly come out of nowhere. And that's, I think, the interesting thing is it's a trigger of Uranus. So when
And
Mars,
a trigger of the eclipse.
and it's a square, so it's challenging. It's not easy. So Mars in Aquarius, which can be somewhat detached from emotions, there's this something comes in and it triggers the shock, and to your point, it's in the 12th house, so it's hidden. It's not something that we're even aware of or we're conscious of, and that's where like things like accidents happen, because there's something that's trying to get your attention. So the healthy way to work with this energy, because I've had to process a little of my own Uranus squaring Mars incident, which was the plane engine going out. Really, the Mars squaring Uranus axis is trying to help you find your path. Like Mars on squaring Uranus is saying, like, you have an individual journey. Uranus is always your own individual journey, who you really are, what you really care about. It's like an authenticity. Okay. Now it's still in Taurus, so it does have to do with your safety and security. And Mars is asking you to step up to the plate and be courageous around what you need, what your actual bodily needs are to feel safe and secure, even in the midst of times that are this unpredictable, chaotic, and tumultuous, which is Uranian. So that Mars is just saying to you, like, wake up. It's a wake up call. Whenever Mars squares something, there's a wake up call. So it's squaring that Uranus. So you have to do the highest side of that Uranus. And that has to do with really like tamping down the chaos in some ways and channeling it into what's a healthy new expression, a unique way that I can get my needs met. And that might be an aha moment, something as simple as like, I am so sick of caring for other people all the time that I am so exhausted. Like, Anne had this thing where it was like she understood suddenly what this dynamic was that she got in a triangle that she had not participated in. And she had to work through, and I don't know what the signs were at that time, but look at what the signs are for clues in your own life so you can dissipate it so it doesn't come in the form of like a car accident and I'm not predicting a car accident for every single person on earth, right? Like, but it can be also very explosive, like in the world stage, like,
Shocking.
right, like shocking events, like, and it could be something like, remember when that train, there was like explosives on a train in Ohio or something like that.
Ohio, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, things like that are kind of symbolic of Mars Uranus squares,
Right.
where there's just like this energy just has to burst forth. But if we kind of take it back to why is this happening and how do I like do the higher side of Uranus and Taurus in my own life? Where is Uranus in your own chart?
Hmm.
That's what's going to be helpful.
Yeah. And how these planets land against your chart too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate your time. It is always fun to have you here. And I think the energy of March, after talking to you, it's a little all over the place in some ways.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a clear cut, but I,
It gets really focused once Mars gets into Aries, but that's not in March. Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay. Please check out Astrotheros. And I might do a little interlude on how to pull a draconic chart just for fun.
Okay.
And
Good
um,
idea.
thank you, Anne. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dabney, for having me. I always have a wonderful time hanging out with you. So it's
Well,
like, yay, yay, Dabney. Everybody give Dabney a round of applause for all the work she does and how she gets everything. And also, I'm going to do a little promo.
I want you to.
Dabney is going to be offering a class on dealing with your family and your dynamics. So watch for that, where she's going to have a pre-recorded session for you to learn and think about. And then she has her 2 hour live where you're going to process with her and she'll pull your chart and she'll talk to you about working with all this new energy. Because even though you might hate your family, you can't really get rid of them. Even if you stop talking to them, you're still carrying them, like I was carrying Nancy. Didn't realize how mad I was until it erupted. So watch for that in your feed from Dabney, because I think it's going to be an excellent workshop.
Aw, thanks, Anne. This all means so much to me, and everyone feel free to log off if you'd like at this point. But I need to gush a little bit and say that I did a mentorship with Anne, and I remember saying, like, I want to be Anne when I grow up. Because, like, by the way, I'm 51 years old. So, yes, but
Yeah, you got 20 more years to go. Because I'm 71, going to be 72 this year. I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
none of us know how this
I have
happened.
no idea how that happened, right?
And I had to really think about it. And I was like, what does that mean when you like want to, be someone when you grow up? And like, it's just that Anne inspires me. Anne inspires me with her joy and her, that her stick to itness and that, she had a really rough year last year, but somehow she just like kept going and she kept her attitude good and she still helped people. And that to me is what I want to do when I grow up. So thank you, Anne. I
You're
appreciate
welcome, Dabney. And when I was growing up, I was the same way. I looked at the people ahead of me and I went, I want to be like them when I grow up. Remember, we can find people that model for us things that we want to be like. And again, they don't have to be a perfect person, but they model for you something and you go, I want to be like that. Then you watch to see how they do it and you go, oh, okay, that's good. We can do that. I can do that. Because that's how we learn. Think about if you've had kids at different ages and the little kid like looks and goes, they're walking, I want to walk, which is what my sister did. She was ready to walk and my mother was like, no, crawl. I'm not ready for you to be walking like your older siblings are. So that's the other thing, is when you look around and you see someone doing something that you like or that you're appreciative of, because they're doing their path, they're doing their chart. And when they're standing in their own authority or they're standing in their true space of what they're supposed to do, you feel it, you resonate to it. And that connection, watch for that, because that's the other way. We are all like Mr. Rogers says, watch for the helpers and watch for the people that kind of help you go, oh, that that looks good to me.
Right, right. And that's the reality is I'm not a predictive astrologer. I took so many of Anne's classes and then I realized like I still have to do things my way. But her courage, her ability to speak her mind, the things that I think that's what you look for in somebody else, those
Yeah,
helpers, is the things that are in you. And I think
right.
that's what we all need to tap into right now is you don't want to be somebody else. You
No,
want to be the
you have
best
to be
version
you.
of yourself, but some people embody those qualities and can inspire you. So
Right.
that's, I think, a little preview for April. So,
And also remembering there's all different kinds of astrologies that are what you're drawn to. So there was an OPA conference. We met through OPA, and they had a list of all the different kinds of astrologers. And I was looking at the list going, God, there's a lot of different kinds of astrology. There's financial, there's Vedic, there's evolutionary, there's horary, there's Western predictive, and really whatever you're called to, because you will be called.
mhm.
There'll be something that invites you and says, hey, this is my version. So Dabney, in her job of helping prior to this, helping people do marketing and evolve and present who they were to be, now she does that with astrology. Like, who are you here to be? Who are you here to evolve to be? Where are you trying to go? Let's figure out your marketing plan, i.e., let's figure out your chart. My chart is, oh, you're going through hell? Come on over and talk to me. I'll help you get through hell. And then once you're through hell, go off and have a good life. Because that's my job as a predictive astrologer. So all of us have our jobs. And that's the goal of the beauty of astrology is there's many different forms. So
And that brings me to the fact that there is a reason and a season for it all.
mhm,
The cosmos is conspiring to help us.
mhm.
So until April.
And there's a little cat there behind you that just stood up and stretched.
Oh, that would be the new kitten, I think.
The little black guy, he's on the chair. Yeah,
Oh,
under the
okay.
lamp. Yeah.
Right. Well, then that's that little.
Black with a white, little white. He
Oh,
might have popped up. He turned from a cushion into a cat. And
that's
then he laid
Bailey.
back down again. Yeah, he's very cute.
That's Bailey. She's a sweetheart.
Bailey just evolved, showed you who she was, and then laid down again. That's what we do with astrology.
We
A
love
living,
Bailey, but she's
living symbolism behind Dabney's right shoulder, so it's all good.
yes, and she's totally herself. She is a grumpy bee, and she is unapologetic about it. So, there's some more energy for us to discuss next month. Okay, Anne.
Bye, everybody.
Love talking to you. Take
Have a
care.
good month.
Bye-bye.